This is Shane with Ocean Drum Incorporated. This tutorial will teach you to use Xcode Storyboard to develop a core data iOS application.
Okay, so now let's go ahead and put in our core data information. Go ahead and select your truck's XC data model file, and we want to add an entity. So I'm going to click down here. If you hold it, it'll say add entity, and then we want to give it a name, and we'll call it trucks. That's going to be our entity. Now we need to give the trucks some attributes. We're going to give it a make, and we'll define that type as a string. We'll give it MPG, miles per gallon, and that will be an integer. And you know what? Let's go ahead and also give it an image, or let's see, we'll call it truck photo. And for images, that's going to be a binary data. Okay, so that's it. So now to create the model for the core data, you go to Editor, create NSManagedObject subclass. Select that, click on Create, and if you look over here, it gives us our truck and our truck header file and our implementation file. Now, something I didn't do right here, that should not be undefined. If you look up here, when I selected the binary data, it didn't take, so we'll select it again. I'll click off of it, and let's go ahead and create our subclass again. Create. Okay, now that worked this time, but we have two files, which is weird, so we don't need both of these. So the one with the undefined, we're going to get rid of that. Delete those two, move to trash. Go ahead and hit clean, and everything should build fine. Okay, cool. Alright, let's head back over to our actually, let's put all this data in one place. So I'm going to select all the files, all my core data files, right click, and you should be able to create new group, and we'll call that core data. I didn't select it, so I guess I just have to drag them in there. Core data. Because we're really not going to have to look at that anymore. We'll just kind of get it out of the way. Okay, perfect. Now then, let's go back over to our viewController.m. We're going to need to pull in our core data properties. So go back to your AppDelegate header file, and what you're going to do is just copy your NSManagedObject all the way down to the persistent coordinator, and then you go back to your header file and just plop those in there. Just paste it. Go to your AppDelegate.m file. You're going to copy the synthesized statements. Go over to your add truck implementation file, and we're going to synthesize those core data properties. Okay, now we should be all set to go ahead and start assigning values from our viewController window. So the goal is to take whatever information that we get that the user enters in the make and the miles per gallon string, and integer field and plop it into the core data. At the end of this, we'll add in the image file. Okay, so let's go ahead and implement core data now. Go to the implementation file for your add truck view controller, and what we're interested in, since the data once entered, we want it to be global, so we want to get a hold of the delegate. So in your viewDidLoad section, we're going to go the name of the delegate, which will be AppDelegate, and then we'll give it a name. We'll call that AppDelegate star AppDelegate equals UIApplication sharedApplication delegate, close bracket. Okay. So now this is a singleton, so it's going to ensure that we only have one instance of this delegate. Right. Now the part that we're interested is going to be this is managedObjectContext. That's basically going to be your database. Apple does an excellent job of explaining what these three properties are. And I'll put a link in the description to refer you to that. So let's go ahead and set that. managedObjectContext equals AppDelegate managedObjectContext. Okay, so now this is going to give us a handle to insert into our database. So now go to your add truck button method, and let's create an instance of our trucks. So trucks star trucks equals, now here we want to describe the entity that we created in our database, and that method is NSEntityDescription insert new object entityForName. So it's expecting a string. Obviously the name of the entity that we're describing is trucks. So let's put that in there. Add symbol and put in the name within the quotes, trucks. And then in managedObjectContext, we just created that, underscore managedObjectContext. That's it. So now that sets up, gives us a variable where we can go ahead and start entering in information from our user interface, the add trucks view controller. So trucks, and then we want to set a variable. First one we'll set is make, and it's expecting a string. So we want to grab the label that we created, which is up here. If you recall, that's going to be the make text field. So make text field dot text. Okay. And let's do the same for the miles per gallon. Trucks. Set. And it's expecting a number. So this is going to be a little tricky. Just remember, this is going to be a string, so we're going to have to do a little bit of conversion. So miles per gallon text field dot text. Okay, so you can see when we put in set MPG miles per gallon and assign it the text field, it's giving us a warning that it's actually expecting a NS number, so we have to do a little bit of conversion. So that method is integer value. So that's the method, but we're still getting an error. Still getting a warning because we have to change that from an integer into an NS number. So NS number integer is a string. The number with int. That should do it. Okay. So that's really nested. NS number with int. That's going to be this section after we get to integer value, and so now it's happening. So now all it's left to do is save that to the database, and that's this piece of code. NSError error equals nil if if there's data within the managed object context, go ahead and save it. This is where your error handling happens. And what I'm doing here, make text field.text and mouse per gallon text field.text setting equal to null, is just setting the view controller, just clearing it out after we run it. So let's go ahead and run this. Thinking about it. There we go. Okay, so let's enter in, say, Ford, 10 miles per gallon, and truck. So if you look over here in our output, you can see that core data is being updated. The way you turn on this functionality is to go to your schema, edit scheme, and in your arguments section, just click in here, and it's it's hyphen com.apple.coredata.capital.SQL debug 1, and that way you can observe if if your core data is functioning, right? But if you want to see it graphically, we just have to go ahead and implement that, and I'll show you that in the next section where we're going to populate our table view with the actual data that's being stored in the database. So let's do that now. First thing we want to do is create, if you haven't already done so, just grab a table view. I'll delete this and just do that now. Grabbing a table view controller. You guys can see, hopefully that's a little clearer for you. From our storyboard. Okay. Our truck detail button, holding down the control key, and we're going to do a push. That gives us our navigation, and we'll call that truck table. Label. All right. Create a new file. New object class. That was command and N. Next, select table view controller this time, and we're going to call that truck table view controller. Next, and create. Okay. Click on your storyboard. Open up the inspector, the identity inspector, and we're going to set the class name like we did before to our truck table view controller. Go to the implementation file for your truck view controller, and just for a test, we're going to return in the table view number of rows section. We know that we're only going to have one row, so let's return a 1. And number of sections in table view, return 1. We're just doing a test right now. Now, this is very important here. Notice that we are setting the cell's identifier to cell right here. So in order for this to work, we need to go back over to our storyboard, select the cell that we're going to be working with, go over to the properties, attributes inspector, and where it says identifier, you want to type in cell. And that way it knows where to update it. Okay. Now click on that again. We're going to change the style from custom to subtitle. So that's going to give us some default information that we can begin to set. Alright. Let's go back over to our truck table view. And what we want to do is, again, we're just going to do some quick testing in here to make sure this works. So we're going to do cell dot let's see, detailed text label. That's going to be the subtitle. Dot text equals string. We'll say that it will be our truck detail. Okay. Let's see. The main label is cell dot is it text label? Yeah, text label dot text equals, and that's going to be a string as well. And we'll call that the let's see, make of truck. And to get a hold of the image file, it's cell.imageView.image equals string. I haven't added a photo in here, so for the time being, I'm just going to comment that out. Actually, you know what? We can grab the from our supporting files. There's a default.png, so let's just do that one. Default.png. Okay, and return a cell. You can say there. Pointer type image. Oops, sorry. So that's US UI image named, and then there's our string. Okay, so let's clean this and run it. The truck detail. Okay, so we know that our table, we can grab a hold of these properties to go ahead and start configuring it with our text that we're going to get from the add truck. So what we want to do again is set up the core data attributes.